You would like to get yourself a brand new VR headset and you've narrowed it down to the Oculus Rift and the Samsung Odyssey, but you can't quite make the decision because you're not sure where are the differences. Now you came to the right place here, because in this video I'm going to give you an in-depth comparison between the Oculus Rift and the Samsung Odyssey. Coming up. Hi and welcome to Mixed Reality TV. My name is Sebastian Ang, and if you are just as excited as me about anything VR and AR, then subscribe now and click the bell button so you don't miss anything. Alright, so which headset should you go for? The Oculus Rift or the Samsung Odyssey? Now, in the end, it all depends on what is important for you. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the pros and cons of both devices so you can make a much more informed decision and you can make the decision that's right for you. So in this video, I'm going to look at all the different aspects. First of all, of course, price. Then I'm going to look at design, comfort, and features. We're going to compare the lenses and the display, of course. And also we're going to look at the tracking, at the controllers, and at the controller tracking. So let's dive right into it. Let's start with release dates and prices. So the Oculus Rift was released in March 2016. And the Samsung Odyssey was released in November 2017. So more than a year difference. And you know, in the tech world, a year difference, it does make a huge difference. So in this comparison, we have to find out how well the older Oculus Rift can still stack up against the newer Samsung Odyssey. Now, price-wise, the Oculus Rift now costs $399 in the States and 449 euros in Europe. And it includes the great Oculus Touch controllers and 2 base stations. I'll talk more about the base stations later. And well, the Samsung Odyssey, you can have it for $499. And well, as you know, unfortunately, you cannot get it in Europe yet. Well, you can get it, but you have to import it yourself, and then probably you'll get to a price of around 700 euros, which is of course very expensive. Now, one important thing you have to keep in mind. It sounds like this has a $100 price difference, right? $399 versus $499. However, with the $399, you only get 2 base stations, and this is not the ideal setup. If you really want to enjoy the Oculus Rift at a maximum and with a really perfect tracking, so that you're going to be tracked no matter in which direction you're facing, you will have to buy a third sensor. Really, you have to buy a third sensor to make it really awesome. And this third sensor costs $60. So then you reach a price of $460. And then these devices only have around $40 price difference. So the Samsung Odyssey, you don't need any base stations because, well, we're going to talk about the technology a bit later. It has the so-called inside-out technology. So this has 2 cameras, and with these 2 cameras, it will determine where it is in space. So you don't need to set up any base stations, which is of course really, really convenient. So you don't need to buy any base stations or any additional base stations for the Samsung Odyssey. But again, with the Oculus Rift, you will need to buy a third base station to make it as good as the Samsung Odyssey in terms of tracking. So well, it's more $460 versus $499. Let's talk about design, comfort, and features next. So let's start with design. This is how the Samsung Odyssey looks like. It is quite bulky and with 640 grams, rather on the heavy side of things. Now, design-wise, they went with this shiny front plate here. And honestly speaking, I don't think that this was a great decision because, of course, it is quite the fingerprint magnet. So this is not so great. Now compare this with the really sleek Oculus Rift. This is how the Oculus Rift looks like. So a huge difference, and it's much lighter as well, around 470 grams. And yeah, it doesn't have this shiny faceplate at all. And it looks very sleek and cool. So I would say in terms of design, if you look at them side by side, the Oculus Rift definitely looks much better, well, at least in my personal opinion. Next, let's talk about comfort. So looking better doesn't automatically mean that it's also more comfortable. And this is really the case here with the Samsung Odyssey and the Oculus Rift as well. Even though this looks kind of bulky and not as sleek as the Oculus Rift, the Samsung Odyssey still is a really, really comfortable headset. And let me tell you why. This is one of the PSVR style headsets. So all of the weight, all of those 645 gram, they rest here on your forehead with this PSVR style of headset. And that simply works great. I think this is a really comfortable device. You have this dial here, and you only need to adjust this dial to make this fit your head, and it works very, very well. And then you have this padding, this faux leather padding here, and also on the back. So this makes the whole headset really comfortable to wear. And again, I like this PSVR style where all of the weight rests on your forehead. So even this is rather heavy with its 645 grams, you don't feel it at all because of this PSVR style of headset. And I've been in this for hours and it's simply good. Then you have these thick faux leather paddings. And when wearing the headset, it feels comfortable. And the great thing is, even if you sweat, you would simply go out of your headset, wipe off the sweat, and you're ready to go again. Now, that is quite different with the Oculus Rift, which comes with foam padding. Now, this will definitely soak up your sweat and make it feel wet and uncomfortable. So even if you go out of the headset after you've sweated, you can't just wipe it off. Well, of course, you can also find some third-party solutions where you can exchange the foam. But now here I'm comparing the headsets, how they come to you if you buy them new. So for the Oculus Rift, it is not this PSVR style of headset. For the Oculus Rift, it's this ski mask of style where you press the headset against your face. And in general, I'm not a big fan of this style. I really prefer the PSVR style headsets. However, this is not an uncomfortable headset at all. This is also really comfortable, especially for this kind of headset. It is for this kind of ski mask headset. It's still really comfortable. You have those Velcro straps that you have to adjust in order to make it fit your face, and then you have this kind of system where you can retract the headset with this spring mechanism here. So yeah, it will be the face mask will be pressed against your face, and it's not uncomfortable, I would say. And well, the foam also does feel good on your face if it's not wet from sweat. So this is also a comfortable device, and because it's not heavy, yeah, you can also wear it for quite a lot of time. And again, you can exchange the foam padding if you want to do that and get some third-party solutions, which will also give you the option to have some faux leather that you can also wipe off the sweat. So directly comparing those two devices with each other, I would probably give the Samsung Odyssey a light advantage as what comfort is concerned. Also because it's so simple to adjust it here with only the dial instead of having to adjust those straps. And especially if you might want to exchange the device with some friends, then you always need to adjust it here with these Velcro straps. And well, it is not as comfortable as simply changing the dial setting here. Also, again, simply wiping off the sweat if you sweat, or if your friends were sweating, is more comfortable. So I do believe that this is the more comfortable solution as compared to the Oculus Rift. So now let's compare the features of the both headsets, and let's start with the features that both headsets have in common. So both headsets have IPD adjustment, which is really important. Here, the Oculus Rift, you can change the IPD setting here. And for the Samsung Odyssey, you can change the IPD settings here with this dial here. Now, of course, as you know, IPD is the interpupillar distance, the distance between your eyes, and being able to set it is really, really important if you have an IPD which is not the average of 63 or 64 millimeters. So do measure your IPD, and you need to know your IPD in order to find out what the setting should be, or you can simply wear them and adjust it until everything looks good. So both of these headsets have IPD adjustment, and that is really important. Now, both headsets also have these headphones here, and here on the Samsung Odyssey, and both do a great job. There's not a huge difference. The difference probably might be that here for the Oculus Rift, you can put them a bit more further away from the device, and then they will go back if you need them back on your ear. So this is a bit better for the Oculus Rift. For the Samsung Odyssey, you cannot quite put them away from the headset as much, but well, in the practical use, I always have the headphones on my ears, so that is rather okay. Now also both have microphones, so you can speak with your teammates when you play with them, which is really incredible. And yeah, that's it. What both of those headsets have in common. Now let's talk about the things that are different. So the Samsung Odyssey on top also has a volume rocker added here. And that really comes in very, very handy if you are in the game and, well, you find out something is too loud or not loud enough. So you can simply adjust it without having to do it in the software, or without having to leave VR, which is really, really useful. So you just click on the volume rocker and change it, and you don't have to go into any menus to change the volume. So this is cool. But now the more important feature that the Samsung Odyssey has and that the Oculus Rift does not have are those two cameras here and here. Now, these two cameras are used for the so-called inside-out tracking. So the tracking technology that these two headsets use are completely different from each other. So the Samsung Odyssey is using which is called the so-called inside-out technology of tracking. So these two cameras see where the headset is in space, so you don't need to set up base stations in your room. Now for the Oculus Rift, it's different. It's outside-in tracking. You have to set up those base stations in your play area, and I have to admit that can be quite complicated, especially with a third sensor which you have to place behind you. So it might take a while until you have everything set up correctly. And well, you only can set it up at one place. It's really complicated to bring it to a friend, of course, and to have to do the setup there. With the Oculus Rift, it has inside-out tracking, and you just plug in the two connectors, a USB and HDMI, and you're good to go no matter where you are. So you can easily bring this to a friend and play at a friend's house without having to set up anything, and that added convenience is truly incredible. So if you know that you might want to play somewhere else often, or if you want to bring this somewhere, or if you have to travel with your headset, then definitely the inside-out tracking of the Samsung Odyssey will be much more convenient than the outside-in tracking with the sensors of the Oculus Rift. Now let's compare lenses and the panels of the Samsung Odyssey and the Oculus Rift. And I can directly tell you from the start, the Samsung wins hands down in both categories. So let's start with the panels and the per eye resolution. So the Samsung Odyssey has a per eye resolution of 1600 times 1440, while the Oculus Rift has a per eye resolution of 1080 times 1200. So this means that on the Oculus Rift, you have 1 million more pixels per eye. And of course, that makes a difference. The picture of the Oculus Rift does not look bad, but you can absolutely tell the difference. Now, I took pictures through the lenses, so let's directly compare them with each other now. I took the same picture in Job Simulator, and this is how it looks like in the Samsung Odyssey. As you can tell, very sharp, how to see the individual pixels with your naked eye, but when you zoom in like I do now, then of course you can still see the individual pixels and you can see a little screen door effect, SDE, but it's not very pronounced. Also, colors look really good here, and overall it's simply a great picture. Now, this is how it looks through the Oculus Rift. Also not bad, but already you can see with your naked eye the screen door effect. You can see the individual pixels. And of course, once you go closer, you can even see that more pronounced here. And for the colors, they look okay, but they don't look quite as vibrant as with the Samsung Odyssey. Let's compare them directly. On top you see the Odyssey and on the bottom the Rift. And as you can tell, the colors with the Odyssey look more vibrant than with the Oculus Rift. Now both headsets use OLED panels, so both do produce good black levels. However, the color reproduction is more true to the original in the Samsung Odyssey, and in the direct comparison, the picture looks a bit more pale in the Oculus Rift, sometimes even milky. Now that goes together with a very pronounced God ray effect in the Oculus Rift, which you don't have at that extent for the Samsung Odyssey. If you don't know what God rays are, have a look at this picture. The glare that you can see here at this Oculus logo, that are the so-called God rays. And that happens in high contrast scenes. For example, like now, when you have this white on black. And that is very pronounced with the Oculus Rift, but you don't have that in such an extent with the Samsung Odyssey. Let's also compare the FOV, the field of view of the two devices. Now, the FOV is the angle in which you see things in virtual reality, and the higher the FOV, the better the immersion. Now, both devices claim to have an FOV of 110 degrees. However, if you compare them side by side, you will find out that the FOV of the Samsung Odyssey actually is higher than that of the Oculus Rift. It is not like a big difference, however, it's definitely noticeable. And yeah, the FOV of the Samsung Odyssey is simply higher than that of the Oculus Rift. Now, one of the reasons might be that the distance of the lenses to your eyes is not as high as it is in the Oculus Rift. So the lenses are really close to your eyes in the Samsung Odyssey. Now, that might be a disadvantage for people who wear glasses, because your glasses could touch the lenses of the Samsung Odyssey and scratch them. So you have to be very careful and probably put some protective foil over the lenses if you are wearing glasses and if you decide to go for the Samsung Odyssey. However, again, the added benefit is the FOV of the Samsung Odyssey is higher. So in a nutshell, the Samsung Odyssey wins hands down in this really important category of lenses and panels. It has the better picture, it's more clear, higher pixel density, less screen door effect, less God rays, and a higher FOV. So definitely this is a big win for the Samsung Odyssey. And next, let's compare the controllers. So let's have a look at the Oculus Rift controllers first, the so-called Oculus Touch controllers. Now, these controllers are, in a word, awesome. These are my favorite controllers in VR for any system, and they are simply fantastic. Now, what does make them fantastic is they are simply so ergonomic. It feels so great to hold them and so natural. Like when you're in VR, you will completely forget about them, and it will just feel like your hands are in VR. You can grab things, and well, you can also shoot like this. For example, here's a trigger button here, and we have a grip button here. Then we have this joystick here, a few other buttons, and this is simply an incredible controller. And again, what I love about it is that you will forget it in VR, and then you will simply grab things normally and you will shoot a gun as if you would shoot a normal gun, and it feels simply right. So this is a total engineering marvel, and I'm a really big fan of the Oculus Touch controllers. Definitely the best controllers that you can get for any VR system at this moment in time in January 2018. And they come in the package. Really awesome. Now let's look at the controllers that come with the Samsung Odyssey. Now the controllers of the Samsung Odyssey look like this. So they also don't feel bad in your hand, but it's definitely a huge difference as compared to Oculus Touch. It's not as easy to forget them in VR. So you'll definitely feel that you are holding something in your hands. And yeah, well, they are already a step up from all the other Windows MR headset controllers, because the other Windows MR controllers that come with all the other Windows MR headsets are not as good as these ones. They have already been updated in design and are much more ergonomic than all the other Windows MR headset controllers. So let me also show you what kind of buttons you will find here. So here's a grip button. Yeah, so you can grab things. Also, you have a trigger here. And now what's interesting about the Windows MR controllers is that you have a touchpad here and a joystick. So this comes in really, really handy because, well, as you know, the Vive, the HTC Vive controllers, they come with a touchpad as well. So if you would like to play HTC Vive games, you can do that, and the developers of the Vive games don't have to really change much about the controls. You can simply use this controller and you don't need to use any mapping. So this is probably the one advantage that these controllers have over the Oculus Touch controllers. So again, these controllers, they certainly get the job done. They are not as ergonomic as the Oculus Touch controllers. And the one advantage that they have is that they come with a joystick here and also a touchpad on top of that. Let's also talk about controller tracking. So the Oculus Touch controllers are being tracked in space by those base stations that you will need for the Oculus Rift. So also it's outside in tracking. And if you have 3 base stations, the controller tracking is simply perfect. These controllers will be tracked in space wherever they are. They can be behind your head, they can be anywhere. Tracking is simply awesome. Now for the Samsung Odyssey controllers, the tracking is also the inside-out approach. So these controllers will be tracked in space by the 2 cameras, which are in front of the Samsung Odyssey. So let's say if you put your controllers behind your head, they will lose tracking. However, in most cases, let's say in 99% of the cases, the controller tracking is also really, really good with those controllers. And I made a whole video about how well the Windows MR controllers are being tracked in general. So please, if you want more information about how well the Samsung Odyssey controllers get tracked in space, do check out this video, and I'm going to put a link here. So definitely check it out if you want to see an in-depth video just about controller tracking of the Samsung Odyssey. So it works great. Not as good as the Oculus Touch, that's for sure, but good enough in most of the cases. Now let's have a look at the content that you can play back on both devices. Let's have a look at the ecosystems that you can use, and let's also check out the launchers, the Cliff House with the Samsung Odyssey as compared to Oculus Dash and Oculus Home on the Oculus Rift. Now, very often I have to answer the questions, can I play Steam VR games and HTC Vive games on the Samsung Odyssey or on the Oculus Rift? And for both devices, it's a resounding yes. You can play Steam VR games on the Samsung Odyssey, and you can also play Steam VR games on the Oculus Rift. However, I have to tell you, as of January 2018, I find the compatibility on the Oculus Rift to be better than on the Samsung Odyssey. So the Steam VR compatibility on the Samsung Odyssey, and for that fact, for all Windows MR devices, is still a bit clunky and there are some bugs sometimes. So for example, sometimes I suddenly cannot teleport anymore in Steam VR, and some games are still not perfectly compatible, but I believe on the long run, they're going to solve these issues, and this compatibility has just been there since 1.5 months. So it's still very fresh, and on the long run, they will definitely make that as good as on Oculus Rift. But as of now, the Oculus Rift compatibility for Steam VR is better. Now with the Oculus Rift, of course, you have access to the Oculus Store and to a lot of awesome games. For example, Lone Echo, Robo Recall, all these exclusive games that the Oculus Rift has to offer, and that have been programmed with the fantastic Oculus Touch controllers in mind. So that is really good. Now, however, you can also play these games with the Samsung Odyssey using a software called Revive, and that works pretty well. However, also again, not 100% perfect in all the cases. So that is another slight advantage software-wise for the Oculus Rift. Now, you can also access the Windows Store with the Samsung Odyssey, of course, and you cannot access that with the Oculus Rift. However, I have to tell you, that is not a big problem because the Windows MR Store is quite empty, and all the games that you find there, you will also find in Steam VR or in the Oculus Store. So definitely at the moment, there's not a big selection in the Windows Store. So overall, as what ecosystems is concerned, definitely the Oculus Rift has an edge over the Samsung Odyssey. Let me also quickly compare the two launching environments. So on the one hand, it's the Cliff House for the Samsung Odyssey, and on the other hand, it's Oculus Dash and Oculus Home. So both do their job reasonably well. From both environments, you can start apps and games, and you can also hang out a bit if you want, and you can decorate your Cliff House, and you can also make Oculus Home your own home by decorating it. So the general functions are very similar in both environments. However, I can tell you very clearly that Oculus Home and Oculus Dash feels much more polished and much more refined. Let me give you one example for that. So for example, if you would like to decorate your house, here is how it works in the Cliff House. First of all, you have to open a window for the inventory, and you need to place that window somewhere in the Cliff House. Once you have done that, that is the needed first step. Just then can you go to that new window and get the things that you want to decorate your house with. Those holograms, you can just get it out of this hologram window and then you can place it. So it's like an added step there, which kind of makes it a bit clunky in my opinion. For Oculus Home, you simply click on your menu button, and then directly a menu opens, and from that you can directly take the thing that you want to decorate your house with and place it anywhere. So it just feels more refined and more polished in Oculus Home. And then one other huge thing that came to my attention: if you have just decorated your Cliff House and made it your own, but then you change your computer and you plug in your headset to another computer, then everything is gone. You have to completely remodel your house, even though you're using the same account, the same Microsoft Windows account. So I have two laptops, and I had in my mind that, well, if I make my Cliff House look good here on my Microsoft account, this will be put somewhere into the cloud, and next time I put my headset on another laptop, I would see my same Cliff House there. But no, it is not like that. It is basically, we're back to 1999, and well, the Cliff House is strictly locked to that computer that you build it on, and I feel that is really not up to date anymore. And definitely Microsoft has to polish the Cliff House much more if they want to be able to compete against Oculus Dash and Oculus Home, which is just such a polished experience. So now let's get to my final thoughts here. Now, Which of the two headsets should you get then? Well, that is really still up to what is important for you, just as I told you already in the beginning. If for you the perfect tracking of your controllers is really, really important, like if you want to play like shooters really competitively and every single time controllers have to be tracked perfectly in space, well, then you need to go for the Oculus Rift because it has a clear advantage here over the Samsung Odyssey. Now, also, if you want to have the more polished software experience and the best compatibility for Steam VR games, then also at this moment in time, in January 2018, I would recommend the Oculus Rift for you, simply because things are much more polished. Oculus Dash, Oculus Home, Steam VR compatibility is better at this moment than, for example, the Cliff House and the Samsung Odyssey compatibility for Steam VR. However, I have to tell you that this is true only for January 2018. And I believe on the long run, all these bugs right now and all these little issues that Samsung Odyssey still has, or that WinMR still has with the compatibility for Steam VR, this will go away very soon. However, I'm talking about this moment in time, and in this moment in time, the Oculus Rift has an advantage over the Samsung Odyssey in terms of software. Now, if for you the most important is the visual clarity and how everything looks in VR, well, then don't look any further than the Samsung Odyssey. It is at this very moment in time the best headset in terms of visual clarity and how things look. It looks simply much better than the Oculus Rift and also than the HTC Vive, if you also want to compare it to the HTC Vive. Also, if convenience is important for you and you know that you might want to use your headset not only in one space, but that you might want to bring it to a friend, for example, then also you should go for the Samsung Odyssey, because it is so much more convenient that you don't have to put up the base stations, but instead you simply plug it in and everything works out of the box. That is definitely better. Personally, if I had to make the decision between the Oculus Rift and the Samsung Odyssey, and if I would be living in the States where the Samsung Odyssey actually is available, then I would go for the Samsung Odyssey, simply because of the better visuals. It just simply looks so much better than the Oculus Rift. And well, it is like I'm already used to that high resolution. It's if you're looking at a 4K screen all the time, for example, and then suddenly you have to go back to a full HD screen, well, you're kind of spoiled already and it's tough to go back. So yes, I would go for the Samsung Odyssey. Also for me, the controller tracking is perfectly fine, and I believe that all the software kinks and problems, they will go away sooner or later. Now, I'm in Europe, and I know lots of you guys are here in Europe too. So the question now, here in Europe, is it worth it to import the Samsung Odyssey? And is the added cost, is it justified as compared to the Oculus Rift? Now, that is tough, and I would either say no, rather go for the Oculus Rift. You have an awesome system which is completely polished, and yeah, it's rather fantastic, I have to say. If you're in Europe, it is really too expensive, I would say, to import the Samsung Odyssey. Now, if you have enough money, of course, definitely import the Samsung Odyssey, but a price difference of like 250 euro if you import the Samsung Odyssey, I believe that is too expensive. As another great option, if you're in a country that does not offer the Samsung Odyssey, you could have a very close look at the Lenovo Explorer, one of my personal favorite Windows MR headsets, and I also posted a comparison between the Samsung Odyssey and the Lenovo Explorer here on that channel. Alright, that's it for this comparison between the Samsung Odyssey and the Oculus Rift. Now, if you have any more questions, you can of course leave them in the comment section below, or you can directly chat with me and directly ask me or the community in the MRTV Discord server. Discord is an incredible tool to get in touch with this community and with me, and you can simply go there by clicking on the link in the description below. So do check out the MRTV Discord server. It's a great resource and a great way to directly get in touch with me and the community. But now, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If yes, give it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to Mixed Reality TV yet, do so now. I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode.